Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to bring you the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. This podcast is available in audio format from your regular podcast provider and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today,
we have 6 updates for you today, so a bit of a shorter show than we've had recently. We've got updates to Google Chat, Google Workspace, Google Docs, Slides and Drawings together in one update, Google Meet, Admin, and finally Google Meet again. As always, there is a link in the podcast or video description to the document that we read from. This contains some more detailed information, relevant links, lovely pictures, and even some moving graphics showing you these features in action. So, let's get to it.
on with the show. Well, before we get on with the show, there's a very special birthday that we have in the air. Guess what, Adam? It's our birthday.
Oh my God, is it our joint birthday, Adam? What?
It is our birthday. It's our podcast's birthday. It has been 1 year since we started this lovely podcast. So it was actually our birthday on Tuesday. So yeah, happy birthday to us.
Happy birthday, Adam. Wow, I'm amazed that it's been a year. That has gone by so fast.
How many updates do you think we have delivered in the last 365 days?
Oh my God. Do you actually know?
I do. I'll give you a hint. In the first 10 episodes, we did 50 updates.
Oh my gosh. So we must have done... What, have we done like 400 or something like that? Is my maths
close.
right there?
We have delivered 326 updates to all of our lovely listeners throughout the course of the last year. And of course, all of these lovely updates have been provided directly from Google themselves. So, yeah. Happy birthday to us.
Oh my word. Wow, that's amazing. 326 updates that we've delivered over. I can't believe that a year has gone by
Practically
so quickly.
one a day, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, actually, yeah. I can't believe the time has gone by so fast that we've been doing this for a year. And, I mean, I don't know what it's like for other people delivering podcasts, but I would say this is quite a challenging podcast to deliver because... we can't record these ahead of schedule. I mean, we can't record these in blocks because we're always recording the updates that are done this week, right? So we always have to do it every single week, regardless of what we're doing. And we always record either on a Thursday or a Friday. And it's been challenging sometimes to meet that requirement with the things that we've both got going on in our lives. But you know, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you so much, Adam, because for all of our listeners, Adam is the one who prepares the document and our intro document and all of our, puts together all of that stuff in the link that you click on and consolidates all of the updates down and does most of the reading as well. I go off on tangents, but, Adam does most of the reading. So I want to say thank you so much, Adam, for sticking with this, being so flexible as you always are. We record in the evenings, at the weekends sometimes and stuff like that, and for doing all of this for a whole year. Thank you so much, Adam.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you, Adam, for being my partner, my co-host and colleague, friend, for coming along this journey with me and with all of our lovely listeners as well. So thank you, Adam, as well.
Wow, it's wonderful. I mean, we've never started the podcast off with so much love. I really like this. This is great. We should do this every week. We'll have a birthday every week.
But now back to the updates.
Yes, let's get on with the updates.
Yeah, so on episode 53 of going into our second year of updates, the very first one, well, we actually have 5 little update-lets for everybody, followed by one slightly bigger update, one main update, you could say. And the very first one is Google Chat. So let's get to it. So expanding autocorrect is now coming to Google Chat on the web. So Google Chat on web will now automatically correct misspelled words, making it easier to send messages without typos. And I did wonder if it's just a little bit of satire. I found it mildly amusing that Google actually misspelled wrong, because you don't misspell a word, you've misspelt the word, but they actually wrote misspelled. I'm not sure if that's just the way that we spell it, or
Maybe
what.
it's different in America. Yeah, our American listeners can tell us.
But we would say you have misspelt a word, not you have misspelled the word. But so I just thought that was slightly ironic for the sentence.
That is. The Google AI will be going crazy.
Similar to functionality in Gmail and Google Docs, the correct words are shown with a grey underline, so you know when the autocorrection has occurred. And this feature is rolling out right now to all English users.
Lovely. I mean, not too much to say about this update, to be honest. It's something that exists already around the Google Workspace apps, and they're just bringing it to chat on the web. So brilliant to see. Interesting. The only thing that I will say is interesting of note on here is that they've specifically said Google Chat on web. Now, I'm presuming that that includes the, for want of a better word, the desktop app, like the one that we use. We've talked before about how it isn't strictly like a separate app. It's sort of still existing within Chrome, and it's just opening a sort of condensed Chrome window almost that is chat only. So it would be interesting to know if it works within that as well. I'm presuming it probably does, but this is only Google Chat on the web, not on mobile. So maybe we'll see another update in the future for mobile support, Adam, do you reckon?
Yes, I expect so. And I must admit, every time we see an update that says, say, something on web, such as Google Chat on web or Gmail on web, I always have the exact same query. Does that mean you have to be directly on the website, or our... it's kind of like an app, but it's not. It's almost more of an extension, but technically it must be still on the app. But does that actually still apply to us or not? So for this update, just like I think another update that we have this week as well, I kind of thought, is that not already a thing? I'm convinced. I thought Google Chat did already have a spell check.
I think it's got a spell check, but I think it's the fact that it's auto-correcting. I think that, so it's not just saying...
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I think
Devil's
that's
in
the
the detail.
difference.
That is, auto-correcting is definitely the key word then.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just saying, oh, you've misspelled this, it's actually auto-correcting it. And I have to say, I have actually found that a real lacking feature in chat, because I've noticed before, it's sort of in my ignorance, like you do sometimes, Adam, I say that those features like misspelling or spell check and auto-correcting, you kind of now just think, oh, they should be everywhere. They should just be everywhere by default. But sometimes they're not always there, and you do notice when they're missing because you are so used to them being there. So I would say it is a feature that has been lacking a little bit. It's great to see that happening, great to see that coming. Like with all of these updatelets, so this is probably for the first 5, I imagine, there's no kind of rollout schedule or availability here. We're assuming this is live now, available for everybody. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So unless otherwise specified, then these updates will all be available right now.
Great, thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
So up next, there is a Google Workspace update. So expanding streamlined file organization across Google Workspace. So earlier this year, Google introduced streamlined file organization with the new Google Drive location picker. As a follow-up, Google is expanding this updated visual experience to Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drawings, Sites, and also Gmail. Users will now have access to helpful suggestions when moving files, adding shortcuts to files, or creating copies of files.
Okay, maybe I'm a little bit confused about what this is. So, is this saying that it's a shame that they didn't include a moving graphic with this updatelet actually? But is this saying that when you've got a doc open in, say, Google Docs, is that when you click the move button towards the top, it's going to kind of have these extra options for being able to search, like where you want to put it?
I believe so. So right now, already in Google Drive, if you now want to move a document, historically, you would just navigate backwards, essentially, from where you already are. So then, layer by layer, go back some folders and then forward folders to where you actually want to be. With the update that came to Google Drive fairly recently, it will now... Google Drive will suggest a helpful location, such as a recent folder that you're in, or just one of your shared drives, or just go directly into your My Drive. So then there will be a few helpful suggestions. So now I think this update LUT is doing the same thing, but across more of Google Workspace.
Yeah, I understand now. And that makes perfect sense, because I've just had a look at the contextual menu there, actually. And when you right-click on a file in Google Drive, like you say, and you go move, it brings up, exactly as you described, that kind of interface where you've got a lot more options. You can select starred locations, recent locations, and kind of go across there, which is really useful. I don't know if you found that useful, Adam, but I have found that...
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, really, really useful. That's an excellent, excellent update that Google did. Now, the interesting thing is, if you open the Move contextual box on Google Docs, which I've just done, not only are those features not there, fine, that's what this update is adding, but it actually kind of looks older, if that makes sense. Do you remember an update that we had a while ago where they said that they were using that Materials 3 or something like that to kind of update the look? It's almost like this contextual menu is on whatever the previous system was, and the new one that's in Google Drive is on like Materials 3. It just looks a bit fancier and flashier, you know, and a bit more modern. So
yes,
yeah, great. If that's the update, which I'm pretty sure it is, then that is really, really cool to see. That will just be so useful, because it's been so useful in Google Drive. And I find that I do kind of miss it when I'm working in Docs and I go to move something. A good example of when, you know, you listeners might be doing this, and we certainly do this, is you open up a template. So we open up our SOP template, for example, and you start writing it, and then you go into the move dialog, and you don't have those nice options of being able to go, I want to move it to a starred location or anywhere. You've got, like you said, Adam, you've got to navigate through everything manually.
Oh, that's interesting. So, I always find it really interesting just to hear how other people use Google Workspace in general. So I do it a completely different way.
Oh, how do you do it?
I always go to the file or folder location I want the document to be, and then I create the new document or the new template directly within that location. So I don't just say start off in my Drive, create a document, and then use the move navigation from within Google Docs to then move that to where I then subsequently want it to be. I always go directly to the location first and then move it. But I always find it's just always interesting to see how different people interact with Google Workspace slightly differently, because it all has the same effect. Exactly, it's all achieving the same thing. It's just everybody thinks slightly differently.
Yeah, to be honest, I think your way of doing it is better. And I tell you why I do it the way that I do it. It's kind of a historic thing with the fact that when you go to a file location in Google Workspace, when you go on Google Drive and you go to a folder location, you can say new doc from template, but that option didn't used to be there back in the day. That didn't used to be there. All you could do was just create a new blank document. That was it. If you wanted to create a document from a template, you had to go to the template gallery, click on it, that would give you the new document, and then you would have to move it from there within the doc, you know, within
So
Google
you're
Docs.
already in the habit of doing it that way.
Yeah, and I just forget that you
need
can
to
do
keep
it
up
the
with the
other way.
times, Adam.
Oh my God, I'm such a dinosaur. So yeah, your way is much better, Adam. Your way is really the best way to do it. And when I found that option, well, just by mistake, I saw that option of from template. I thought, oh wow, that's fantastic. I must remember to do it that way. And then inevitably, always forget. That's the way. So
yes. So this update, most of the update alerts we have are available right now unless otherwise specified. However, this one has been otherwise specified. So this is rolling out now to rapid release and scheduled release at an extended pace, so potentially longer than 15 days for feature visibility. So if you cannot see it just yet, then give it a week or so, then I expect you will be able to. I've also added a lovely link within our documents that you can find in our podcast description if anybody would like to learn more about how to use Google Drive.
Fantastic, Adam. Thank you so much. What have we got next, please?
Up next, we have an update alert to Google Docs, Slides and Drawings. So there's an updated zoom in or zoom out capabilities across Google Docs, Slides and Drawings. So Google is introducing new zoom keyboard shortcuts in Google Docs and Slides on web to help you zoom in, zoom out, or scale to 100%. Additionally, you can now smoothly zoom in or out in slides using the trackpad or mouse wheel with a modifier key. So that'll be a command if you're on Mac OS, or control if you're using Windows or Chrome OS, and using those modifier keys will make it easier to control your view of slides.
What a lovely update. This is really nice. Just adding a few keyboard shortcuts in there for that zoom functionality is going to be really handy. And adding that smooth zoom in and out, That's really nice. I've always thought that's something that's kind of lacking a bit in Google Docs, Sheets and Slides. I know it's only coming to Slides at the moment. Hopefully they'll do it to Docs and Sheets as well. You can kind of zoom in and out on Docs, Sheets and Slides, but it's very set. You know, you can zoom out to 75% or you can zoom into 100%, etc. It's really nice that you can kind of slide that in and out how you want to get it just the way that you want, because that is something that exists on Microsoft Office.
Again, see, I thought this update was already available, because using my trackpad, my two-finger pinch on my trackpad, whether I'm on my desktop or my laptop, that's generally how I zoom in anyway, and that's how I already have been. However, that may be that I'm more zooming in to say Google Chrome as a whole, and not the Google Doc or slides or drawings. And so this update will be lovely to definitely smooth out that experience.
Yeah, 100%, and that's exactly what I was about to say. What you're actually doing there is zooming the entire Chrome window, which is okay. You know, it will still achieve a similar result in the fact that you'll be able to zoom in the text. The problem is, what you'll notice when you do that is the menu bar and everything at the top will all disappear because you're zooming the entire window, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that is really, really nice to see. Got to use the modifier keys there, and then the trackpad scrolling ability. So on a Mac, that would be like two-finger scroll, for example, or something like that. But yeah, this is really nice to see. I think that will be very, very useful for people. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
Okay, up next we have a Google Meet update. So, expanded language support for captions in Google Meet. So, captions in Google Meet allows you to view captions as everyone speaks during their meeting. Over the course of the next several weeks, you'll be able to use captions in more languages. So I won't go through everyone individually, but just as a quick summary, these languages are going to include, we've got Arabic, Bengali, Bulgarian, Chinese, English, Indian, Hindi, South African languages. There's also Swedish in there. Yeah, so there's quite a few there. There's half a dozen or so South African languages. So come and have a look at the languages that are going to be available, if maybe that's going to be a language that you're interested in.
Yeah, that's really, really great that they're expanding the languages there. And yeah, there's... I don't blame you for not reading all of those languages. Some of those languages I wouldn't even want to attempt to pronounce. So yeah, there's a lot of South African languages in here. And I'm sure this is going to be very, very useful for some of the international listeners, or any of our English-speaking listeners who interact with international customers, of course, because having this kind of live translation is really a bit of a game changer for some of these people. We have talked about in a previous update about the fact that this is something, correct me if I'm wrong, this is something that's going to soon only exist within the world of Duet AI.
Yeah, it's interesting that they didn't actually mention that as part of this little update alert, but that is something that we did speak about very recently. I think it was not last week, I think it was the week before, where they did say that the closed captions is going to be part of Duet AI.
Yeah, exactly. So just bear that in mind, listeners, that although there is a language expansion here, it could, in the near future, only be within Duet AI, which is going to be a paid tier level of Google Workspace. It's going to kind of be an extra thing. I actually had a look at that, Adam, afterwards, as to how much Google are going to charge for Duet AI, and I don't think it's been released officially yet, from what I understand, but somewhere along the line, it seems to be around about $30 per user per month. Now, personally, I think that's pretty good value. I think generally in the community, people have thought that's quite expensive, because if you think about it, the whole of Google Workspace is like, I don't know, $10. I'm not. Yeah, well, free on a basic plan. You know, if you're paying for it, I know what it is in pounds, but I don't know what it is in dollars. But I imagine it must be about $12 or something per month. So I guess people are looking at it and going, well, hang on a minute, this one feature is twice as much as my entire Workspace platform. However, what I would encourage people to remember is this Duet AI, like we said in our update, is potentially going to replace a lot of tools that you might be paying for already. Grammarly being one of them. And I bet you Grammarly Premium is more than $30 a month. I would have thought, per user. I don't know, but I would have thought it's more than $30 per month.
Yes, and so value is very much in the eye of the beholder. If Duet AI is something that you're hardly ever going to use, or you'll use it once, you'll think, oh, that's cool, and then never touch it again, then maybe it's not really worth having the subscription. But as I recall, I think you get a 2-week or 14-day free trial of using it anyway. And so then if you find that you're using it all the time within those 2 weeks, and you do then subscribe to have that feature, then you'll still be getting excellent value for it. If you touch it once every 6 months or once a year, then of course maybe that value will be interpreted differently to you.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said, Adam, and it's a really good point that people can trial it before they, buy it. And you are right.
I think it sounds really cool anyway, even if it's not something that you intend on subscribing to anyway. Go check it out, because I just think it sounds really cool.
The coolest feature of it, which I just think is such a game changer, is the I think they've only got it in slides at the moment, but it's the fact that you can describe the picture you want and it will just make you a picture out of nothing. That to me is just mind-blowing that you can do that.
You could basically just publish your own book for you, because you can tell it to write the book, you can describe the book, and it'll come up with the pictures to go with it, and it'll put so much together, because that is the great thing. We're not going off on a tangent, Adam, we're not doing that, but with Duet AI, because it goes into so many different areas of Google Workspace, if you utilize all of those together as one whole package, then the things that you could potentially create could be really interesting and really exciting, actually. And I think that goes with a lot of Workspace, actually. Each one product by itself, it is great, yes. However, I find the real beauty of Workspace is how it seamlessly interacts with all the rest of Google Workspace as well. So it's not just Google Docs, or it's not just your emails, it's everything else that it works and interacts with as well.
100%. I mean, it's so clever the way it all links up.
Not a paid ad.
Yeah. I do want to put that out there. We're not paid by Google at all. I wish we were. Damn it. But it is. I completely agree with what you said. I mean, it's like the way that's the most powerful thing. I mean, that's why we moved our entire business over to Google Workspace. However many years ago it is now, must be 4 or 5 years ago now. And we moved everything over to Google Workspace, and we found that just so beneficial in terms of everything working together. When we use Google Chat, we're just able to send stuff so easily, and Google Calendar all links together to Docs and everything like that. So I think this, you're right, we're not going to go off on tangent talking about Duet AI. For anybody listening, if you are interested in Duet AI, if you missed it in our update, I think it's like you say, Adam, it's a couple of updates.
I think it was 2 weeks ago,
wasn't it? Yeah, please go back and check that out, because Duet AI, I mean, it's amazing. We talked at length about it in the update, and it really does sound very, very exciting. And just to go back to this, for these languages that have been expanded here, this is fantastic to see. The only other thing of note here, I think all of these languages are in beta, aren't they, as well, Adam?
Oh, yes, sorry, I should have potentially mentioned that.
So that's fine. I'm sure they'll be good, even though they're in beta. I mean, Google do a lot of testing before they even get to beta, so that's good.
And I would just add, so all of those languages, this whole little update about all the captions is available right now to all Google Workspace customers. And I've also added another lovely link to Google's Help Center if anybody would like to learn more about using captions within Google Meet.
Great. Thank you very much, Adam. What have we got next, please?
Up next, we have an admin update. So, dynamic groups now supports negation queries. So you can now create or edit dynamic groups to use negation in membership queries. For example, you can opt to create a dynamic group that excludes all users from a particular sub-organization or specific job title. There are a few limitations, however. Any query using the exists macro and using the and operator or queries where the not operator is used inside of the exists macro will not be supported. So I'll just go through that one more time. Any query that is using the exists macro and using the and operator, or queries where the not operator is used inside of the exists macro, will not be supported.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's. I'd encourage any listeners to go and check the document out if they think that applies to them. Okay, this is really interesting. And do you know what? This actually reminds me that dynamic groups exists. I remember we talked about this on the podcast ages ago, and I thought to myself, oh, wow, that's really, really cool that you can do dynamic groups. I've actually completely forgotten that they exist within Google Workspace. Very dynamic groups, really, really useful. This makes it even more useful, being able to put in queries like this and say, yes, I want everybody to be a member apart from these sub-organisations. I can actually think of an exact example of when we might want to use this group, this dynamic group. We have, I think at a few of our schools, we have an organisational unit that's students. And then underneath that, we'll have the different classes. One of those all in organisational units. One of those organisational units is leavers. So imagine if you wanted to create a dynamic group that was active students or, live students or something. You could say everybody under students except the leavers OU. So I can think of an example straight away for doing that. And yeah, that is really, really cool that you can do that now. Thank you, Adam. Well, there is actually a rollout pace and availability on this, isn't there? And I think you've even added some links in as well to help people with those queries, especially with that crazy if it's an exist and an and a not. So yeah, you go ahead, Adam.
Yes, so this update rolling out to rapid release and scheduled release at a gradual pace, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, started on September the 11th, so by the time this podcast goes out, give it a week or so, and then it should be available to you, if you are part of an eligible workspace. So this is available to Google Workspace Frontline Standard, Enterprise Essentials Plus, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Standard, Education Plus, and Cloud Identity Premium customers only. I have also added a lovely link to Google's Help Center if anybody would like to learn more about creating membership queries for dynamic groups, and Google's developer documentation for more information about formulating and testing a membership query. So if you are interested in the dynamic groups, go and check those links out.
Okay, that's very interesting to know that it's only available on those tiers. So we wouldn't be able to use it in our business, for example, because we're on business
Great
standard.
to see it in education, though. So that example that you gave would definitely be applicable to them.
Yeah, that's right. As long as they're on education standard, of course, or above. And we've got, I think we've got a customer on Education Plus. So, just bear in mind, if you do have those education customers, they need to be on Education Standard, Education Plus, to be able to take advantage of using that. And if you are a customer who supports education, it's another thing, like we always say on this podcast, to try and help you MSP guys out who are listening. It's another thing that you can put forward to your education customers to say, look, this is another advantage to going to that paid tier, to going to those paid licenses.
Because essentially these dynamic groups, one of the main purposes, other than just helping to keep your own Google Workspace nice and neat and tidy, it will save time. And time is money, basically. So, okay, there is a cost to potentially set it up with the licensing initially, but you'll get so much for it, and then you're saving so much time, which is money as well. So, swings and roundabouts.
And like we've talked about before as well, it helps with things like GDPR compliance. So to give you a direct example of how that helps, let's say we create that dynamic group that I talked about, but let's say we're doing staff, okay? And again, we exclude the leavers. We know now that our dynamic group that we've created, as long as the staff are being moved to the leavers when they're meant to be, we know that our dynamic group is only going to contain the relevant members of staff. So guess what? Now we can share drives out to that group, and we know that those drive files are only going to be shared to people who are live rather than people who have left. That helps with things like preventing data breaches. That's why it helps with your GDPR policy. So I always like, a lot of people say things like, oh, it increases security, it increases GDPR compliance, but don't actually say how. I always like to cite real world examples of how these updates and how these features within Google Workspace can do it. And I tell you as well, Adam, we do that. We use those type of features to help our schools with GDPR compliance because we know how much of a time saver it can be. So I think you're absolutely right in what you say about there is a cost there, but potentially you've got time saving, you've got compliance requirements that you're meeting.
Definitely a win-win because it's great for us. It makes our jobs that much easier, and it's helping the schools with compliance anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. What have we got last, please?
Okay, so finally from us this week, last update is to do with Google Meet. So, dual display on Poly Studio X series makes video meetings more productive. So, this is all to do with Google Meet hardware, and I think we have spoken about the Poly Studio X series before. I actually cannot quite remember when. It was a little while ago now, but this is Google Meet hardware that we're going to be talking about in this update. So, Google is super excited to announce dual display support for Google Meet on the Poly Studio X series to help make video meetings more productive. With dual displays, you can see more meeting participants, presentations, and documents at once, which can help you stay focused and engaged in meetings. With a single display, shared content takes over a majority of the screen and minimises the view of meeting participants. Minimising the view of participants can affect meeting engagement by limiting conversation between those who are in the room and those who are not. During a meeting with dual displays, the primary and secondary screens will show the view of all the participants in the meeting, including the view of the local room. When a participant presents, the presentation will enlarge onto one screen display, and the participant view will reflect onto the other screen display. Where supported, the controller or remote will also provide options like pinning participants, changing the layout of the participant tiles, and showing the meeting's chat history.
What a fantastic update for anybody using those Google Meet hardware devices. And I'm sure that anybody who has used those has probably thought to themselves, oh, I wish I could use dual display, or I wish I could have a couple of displays here. I think the lovely little sort of animated picture that they've put in here just sort of shows it beautifully. I've never personally been in an office with that type of table and those type of chairs, but that's obviously something that happens at cool, funky Google HQ. I think it's really, really useful. And I tell you what I really like about this, Adam, and I know you'll like this as well. It's the fact that Google have not just gone, oh, here's dual display support. It's the fact that they've added in, like that example that you've cited there, of the fact that when you present, it puts the presentation on one screen and the participants on another. It sounds so simple, but it's exactly the sort of thing that a company could overlook when they're deploying something like this, and you would have to do it manually. It's so nice that they've built that in straight away. Somebody's thought of that. So whoever thought of that at Google, gold star for you, because I think that's a great feature.
Absolutely. So we love any update or feature that shows a bit of intelligence. Because intelligence just really helps everything, really. It makes things, if things are more intuitive, if they are more intelligent, then the overall experience for the end user is going to be that much better. So, for example, if it just automatically mirrored both screens, for example, then people would see the exact same thing on both, and that could be annoying. Or if it behaved in a slightly different way, then the people that are live, that are local within the meeting, they're going to have to faff around to try and make everything work. And all the time, whilst people are doing that, everyone else that's on the meeting are not going to be thinking how organised and how well presented this actual meeting is. So if they just connect their dual displays and then it just suddenly does everything seamlessly and beautifully, then people will notice that, look how lovely this is. And I know I for one, and I know definitely you as well, Adam, one screen is simply just far too few. It is not enough. I cannot live with only having one screen. That's why half the time I love working at my computer at home, because I've got my second screen, which makes work so much more productive and so much more helpful. That is, I personally think it's the biggest caveat to working with a laptop. It's great that it's mobile and you get to go around, but then you've only got the one screen to do everything. Okay, you can fetch another one and plug it in, but so that option definitely is available. But wherever optional, dual displays are so much better, and something that I have had quite recently at several of the schools that I go into support, actually. When setting up some computers for office staff, I've offered if they would like to have two screens, and initially they will say no, because they maybe they find they're a bit apprehensive, maybe they find it a bit scary, that they don't know how it works. However, then they'll see someone else using two screens, and so then they'll they'll say, "Oh, can I actually try that, please?" And
Yeah.
so I'll set them up, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! It makes work so much more productive." And they every single person that has gone from one screen to two screens absolutely loves it. And so this is just going to be a similar experience, really.
Yeah, and to follow on from what you said, I've never known anybody go to two screens and go back. I've never known.
Precisely. You know what? Let's go to three screens.
Yeah. Well, imagine how I feel. I mean, you know, and I'm sure most of the regular listeners know that I've been doing this absolutely colossal, rebuild. I've virtually rebuilt my house, to be honest. We've gone back to brick. It's been It's been absolutely insane. I haven't had my monitor for such a long time. You know, I've been on my 13-inch MacBook Air, so I've gone from my 49-inch curved monitor, which was just so wonderful that I could put so many windows up on it and have so much real estate on the screen. Like you said, Adam, it made me so productive. And I've been reduced to this sort of 13-inch screen, which is just driving me crazy. But I know it's not for much longer. So I completely agree with you. You know, dual display, triple display, large format curved display, whatever it is, increasing your screen real estate is fantastic. And on that subject, I want to say, because I know you'll understand this reference, we've just started watching Picard, and one of the characters used that little like credit card side device that she just had on the bed, and it produced that huge like holographic screen that she was watching something on, and I thought, oh, if only. Like, I cannot wait for that type of technology to come along, because that is just so cool.
Definitely. The way that you're working at the moment, you may as well just whip out your Nokia 3310 and just start working on that, really.
Just playing Snake at the same time. I mean, it's like, wow, that's a blast from the past. Anybody listening who's under the age of about, what, like 30 or something like that, they won't have a clue what we're talking about. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Adam. I'm living like a pauper, to be quite honest. So it's one big tin bath in the middle of my coal-fired room with my tiny screen. It's a bit of a sad state of affairs, but I know it's not forever. So yeah, I completely agree. It's an incredibly useful feature, and I think you've got some information about getting started here for people, and availability, and then finally rollout, right?
Yes, so I have added a link to Google's Help Center if anybody would like some more information about dual displays. But for the getting started for the admins out there, Google Meet on Poly Android appliance requires Google Meet hardware licenses, and you will need to reach out to a reseller in order to purchase your Google Meet hardware licenses. So if you need any assistance with that, reach out to us and we will be able to assist with everybody that has that requirement. The Studio X series appliance will also need to be updated to PolyOS 4.01. For the end users out there, to use dual displays with the Poly Studio X series of video bars, simply plug a second display into the device's DisplayPort. The Poly Studio X series will automatically recognise the second monitor and add it as a secondary display. Great. The availability for this. So this is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers that have a Poly Studio X50, X52 or X70 device. The Poly Studio X30 only supports a single monitor. What a shame. So the Poly Studio X50, X52 and X70 devices are the ones that do support dual display.
Great. Well, I'm sure that will make sense to anybody who's using those Google Meet hardware devices or sort of selling them into clients. Thank you, Adam. What's the rollout here, please?
Okay, so this new feature is available now for compatible Poly X Studio devices running PolyOS 4.0.1 or higher.
Okay, so like those sort of things that you mentioned earlier, those provisions you mentioned earlier, it's available as long as you meet those requirements. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, as always, Adam. And once again, happy birthday for our lovely
Happy birthday
lovely
to
podcast.
us.
Yeah, happy birthday to us. And our lovely listeners. If you are a listener who's been listening since day one, my goodness, I salute you, listening to Adam and I ramble on for a whole year. I really salute you. And like we said, thank you to Eric last week and gave him a little shout out. You know, anybody who wants to get in touch, please do so. And please leave us some reviews. You know, we're really lacking reviews. We really want to hear some reviews from our lovely listeners. And And that's it, everybody. That's everything that you need to know about all of the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available in audio format from your regular podcast provider and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
And we'll be back again next Monday with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.